Where the hell is that damn camera?
Is it still possible to find a true hidden gem camera that can produce amazing results? Is it possible that a camera once overlooked as mundane and ordinary could actually turn out to be a camera that is actually extraordinary? Stay tuned. It's all coming up in this episode today, only on Camera Legend.
What is going down, you awesome camera freaks and geeks? Now, these cameras here, these cameras have gotten really popular over the years, so much so that you might even say that they've been a little bit overhyped. And thus what happens when that happens is that these cameras tend to become overpriced, all right? So these cameras really have gone up a lot in price, and that's why I tend to say quite often, when you're using cameras like this, just use your phone, bro. Meaning that it's not because I don't like using these cameras. Yeah, this is great, man, with the ring and everything. But what I mean is that because the image quality is so similar to modern day cell phones, and in fact the cell phones would probably do better these days, but because of that and because of the rising prices, that's why I always say, just use your phone, bro. All right, but I do understand, you see, people want the tactile feeling, they want the actual physical controls that, the phones, even though sometimes they try to emulate them with the virtual controls, it's not the same, all right? Now, as I said, these cameras have gotten really expensive. So has the Ricoh GR Digital series and all of those cameras. But today's camera, I feel, has been overlooked, maybe even forgotten. Now, sometimes when I say that, people say, oh, well, I didn't forget it. I'm not talking about you, okay? You're the exception. But what I mean is take a look at the reviews for this camera later when I tell you what it is, and you'll see that some of the reviews for this camera are going back like 13 years. Not so many new reviews, if at all. Sometimes you might see a little shorts or something like that. So that tells me that this camera has been largely forgotten, but this camera that I'm going to show you guys today is pretty incredible in my book. And so I'm going to show it to you right now. A pocket rocket means different things to different people, but mostly it means that you should have a camera that fits in your pocket. This camera that I have today definitely does. Let me see where it is. Well, I think I showed you Canon S90. Canon S90, where the hell is that damn camera? Oh, wait a second. It's in the pocket. So today, let's take a look at this awesome Nikon Pocket Rocket.
All right, now before I give you guys the name and the specs of this camera right here, let's take a look at some photos from this little Nikon Pocket Rocket. Now, the first thing that really impressed me about this camera are the beautiful colors, the depth, and the tonality coming out of this camera, which are reminiscent of, Nikon Digital SLRs, which I found very impressive for a small sensor camera. The detail and resolution are also very nice too. Although the camera does have a tendency to oversaturate, which Nikon cameras are known for. Now, some people love this and some people don't, so you can always turn down the saturation if it's not your cup of tea. Now, just like my phone, I found this camera very useful for quick snaps and captures of fleeting moments. And another great thing about this camera is that it's so small that when I pull it out, people just don't notice. Almost like pulling out your phone. People just don't notice. And hey man, is that a fox in there? Now, I caught this one as I was driving, so here's a good example of the camera being fast enough to get this shot. Now keep in mind that this is a small censored camera, so even though this was an overcast day, there's not going to be a lot of highlight retention in the sky, but the camera does make up for it by giving you decent detail as you crop into the image. And I found this camera to have generally great auto exposure, and so when an exposure is spot on, the resulting images can be beautiful. And when the lights start going down, this camera still continues to deliver with great exposures. Now the lens does tend to produce some dramatic flaring when there's a bright light source, but I rather like the effect. So overall, I think this camera handles most situations with great aplomb.
All right, you guys, so let me know what you guys think about the color images from this camera in the comments below.
All right, so you guys have seen the color images, but let me tell you guys, you haven't seen nothing yet because this camera actually does even better black and white images. But first, let me tell you guys what this camera is. This is the Nikon Coolpix P300. It was introduced in 2011. It is a 12.2 megapixel CMOS sensor camera. Now the lens on this camera in 35 millimeter equivalent is roughly 24 millimeters to 100 millimeters, and at the wide end, at 24 millimeters, the wide aperture is f1.8, which is really cool and fast, and at the long end is f4.9, which is slow and not so cool, but I believe it to be a necessary compromise for the price. Now this camera has some really cool and genuinely useful features, and let me tell you about that right now. Alright, so in its off state, you can see that this camera is small and genuinely pocketable. Now the camera is fairly quick to turn on and off, and as I mentioned before, you have a very useful 24 millimeter wide angle at the wide end and a fast aperture f1.8 at the wide end. Now looking at the top, you have all your basic modes: manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, program, and fully automatic modes. And this camera has one other trick up its sleeve, perhaps its greatest trick. Check this out, you guys. So just like the video we did on the Nikon S9100, this camera has a cool high contrast monochrome mode, and you can go straight from the color to high contrast monochrome just by going like this. And well, first you have to set it up in the scenes menu, but once you do that, yeah, straight from color to black and white. All right,
Now, as nice and as beautiful as the color images from this camera are, the black and white images from this camera are even better.
all right, you awesome war-torn camera geeks. Now, as much as I love the color images from this camera, I think the black and white images from this camera are even better. As a big black and white photography fan, I think these images are quite amazing actually. The images have a certain kind of depth to them that I don't normally see in a camera of this class. Plus, it is also fast enough to capture the moment. The tones look beautiful, and the images from this lens have remarkable image definition. I don't think I would call these images film-like because these images actually look more like scenes from a movie. That's how good I think the black and white images from this camera are, in my humble opinion. These black and white images are as satisfying to me as anything I've gotten out of my original Ricoh GR Digital, and I think that says a lot as far as I'm concerned as to the quality of the black and white images from this humble camera. Cut the music. Alright, I want to show you guys this because these are the little things that make this camera great, okay? So check out this image, right? Now, it looks fine already as it is, but watch this. When you guys zoom in, check out the detail on that shirt, those little dots. See, that's the quality of this zoom lens right here. And those are the little things that are subtle that you might not see, but that's what makes the images really stand out. And what separates great cameras from mediocre ones are these little micro details. Now, even though I often say, just use your phone, bro, when it comes to digicams like this, um, in this case, I would say that the combination of lens, sensor, and black and white filter that's done in this camera makes it compelling enough where I would choose this over using a phone and a filter, because you'd have to work a little harder to find the right combination of phone and filter to emulate the black and whites that come out of this camera.
Check this out, you guys. So here's another really cool feature on this camera. All right, so let's say you're in the picture mode. It has an independent video button, which is really cool, especially for its time. So you can always go into video mode by pressing that, and you get a nice video. And for me, a real cool thing also is you can go into that black and white mode again, and you can take black and white videos. I want to see what this is. All right, you guys. Well, in summary, I think that this is a great all-in-one camera, all-in-one package that you can put in your pocket and take anywhere and get great results. Now, as I mentioned earlier in this episode, if you look up reviews for this camera, the Nikon P300, Coolpix P300, you'll see that a lot of the reviews for this camera go back as far as 14 years, and some of the latest reviews are like 5 years ago. So, as I said, no exaggeration when I say that this camera has been largely overlooked. And the reason I think it was largely overlooked was when it was introduced in 2011, it was being compared to cameras like right here, the Canon S95 or the Panasonic LX3 or LX5, I'm not exactly sure, but it was being compared to those cameras, and quite unfairly, I believe, because the S95 actually has a larger sensor, not by much, but slightly larger. But in my personal view, the results from this camera are equally as satisfying, okay? Maybe not technically as good, but equally as satisfying as anything that I've gotten out of this camera right here. And all right, now let's get back to this. Well, the battery life is pretty decent, but if you use it a lot, it will go flat, which it just did on me right here. But that's my fault because I didn't charge it up. But anyway, I just want to say that there are some negatives here. There's no RAW mode in here for you guys that care about that. But ironically, I would say that, listen, if you are using a digicam from over 10 years ago, then I would argue that please don't tell me that ultimate image quality is your bottom line, okay? So the fact that it doesn't have a RAW mode, that doesn't bother me, because the results from this camera are pretty amazing as it is. This is one of those cameras where you have to appreciate it as is, okay? And I think issues you may encounter would be this zoom toggle right here. After a while, after leaving it in my pocket for a couple years here, it has begun to become a little sticky. This might be a potential weak link here, right? But keep that in mind. But again, I think this is a great camera. The lens here, although it's a zoom lens, I think is excellent. It's an excellent match for the sensor. The colors from this camera are beautiful. The tonality, the depth look beautiful. And best of all, as I said, the black and whites from this camera look as good as anything that I've gotten out of my old Ricoh GR Digitals. So this is a great alternative, in my opinion, to those cameras. All right, so once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate each and every one of you guys. And until next time, let's take an awesome photo with the Nikon Pocket Rocket that you never knew about or that you have forgotten until today. All right, at the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. And I will catch you guys next time on the cameralegend.com. Say it with me, guys. YouTube channel. This is awesome, man. All right, now for you guys who are sticking around just a little bit, check this out. You guys remember this? Well, keep an eye on this because it might be coming back for future episodes. Now, I just want to say one thing. For some reason, this was always a little polarizing. I'm not sure why. Maybe because it makes me look like an arrogant prick. I don't know. But I think people just don't get it. It's a shtick, man. It's like something for you guys, for people to remember. You know, oh, it's that guy with the shades. You know, like Slash with the hat or Michael Jackson with that white glove. It's the same kind of marketing kind of thing. Plus, back then I didn't have cameras that could, you know, do the product shots, so I kind of like needed to look at the screen. Also, another thing is, I'm getting older, guys, man. You know, I don't necessarily, first of all, I don't like being in front of a camera to begin with, and so, you know, more and more lines are appearing on my face, and this helps me out a lot. So I think that if you guys know, you know, when you actually know why, it helps you to understand and maybe even tolerate it a little bit better, right? Understanding is the key to everything. Thanks so much, you guys. Have a great day.